So today's presentation, how we learn to stop worrying and love SP2 on this awesome Valentine's Day, will feature on the new, focus on the new features of the Symantec Management Platform SP2 release. My name is Orland Damey. I'm a senior IT asset management consultant for ITS. I personally am based out of the Chicago, Illinois area, which is why you may be hearing the red line outside the window here. I personally specialize in the asset and client management suite. And the first thing I'd like to do is review what we'll be talking about today. So the first thing I'm going to do is briefly talk about ITS for anyone who isn't familiar. And then we're going to do a review of the SP2 in slide format. I'm going to cover some general console enhancements, software changes within the new console view or enhanced console, followed by changes within specific to the asset management suite. And I'm going to do a live demonstration using my virtual environment on my laptop. So moving in, so I represent ITS Partners. Our website is itsdelivers.com. We are a Symantec national partner capable of delivering consulting and software solutions from coast to coast. As a platinum partner, we've reached the highest level of Symantec partnership within their program. We've also been named Partner of the Year. I believe last year we were runner-up. Our headquarters is, in fact, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but engineers like myself travel all over the country as we speak, working with customers in nearly every industry. Now, ITS maintains a strong base of talented and specialized engineers. We dedicate ourselves to offering customized and effective solutions from a engineer-centric organization. We've actually been working with the Altiris platform since before the purchase of Symantec, which is why we have the reputation we do, and through the transition of that purchasing, we've continued to build upon our reputation and implementation of the management suites. So the release of SP2 further expands our list of supporting operating systems. So I'll begin with the general console enhancements, things you won't be seeing in the demonstration. For example, we now have support for the Mac OS 10.7, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6, the 64-bit version of the Red Hat Linux operating system, SUS Linux 11 SP1, as well as Windows Server 2008 R2 SP1, as well as network discovery support for AIX 6.1, LPAR, and Solaris zones. We also have support for the changes for support for the console itself. We can now host the Symantec CMDB on SQL 2005 SP4, as well as 2008 R2 SP1. We also do have support for Internet Explorer 9 in compatibility mode. So some core changes that I'd like to mention briefly. One, for example, there's been modifications made to allow faster processing of the NSE files. Those are the files that come up from the agent with inventory solution. This results in a more efficient inventory processing. Additionally, one notification server can now host up to 300 task servers. Do keep in mind that this does not change the number of supported nodes or changes in supported child notification servers in hierarchy yet. There's improved SSL support when configuring the console. And as I forgot to mention actually in the beginning of the presentation, performance is really the name of the game here in SP2. And we'll cover that briefly here and there, but a lot of that improvement does come from tweaking of the SQL code behind the scenes. So there's some additional core enhancement changes. For example, UAC is handled better in Vista, Windows 7, and 8. There's an increased task replication efficiency, as well as additional language support for IT analytics beyond English. Another big one for any virtualization customers out there, there's now a unified format for workspace virtualization, as well as application streaming in a .xpf format. So now that we have one file format from each, it allows one application to be used in either product, which significantly increases the overall usability. Moving forward, when we talk about the new console view, what I'm talking about is the Silverlight console when you hit Manage Computers. So there's been performance changes in the system, specifically in a test environment with the Service Pack. We've seen 80,000 resources load in under 10 seconds with a system properly configured and with adequate system resources as required by the Planning and Implementation Guide. There's that statistic there. We also have a new computer summary view, which you'll see later in the demonstration. It's a new chevron button that feeds off of your organizational groups for an at-a-glance view of your environment for the computer operating systems and manufacturers. One of my favorite changes in the console, in my top 5, would be the new virtual machine icon, which allows instant differentiation between a physical box and a virtual. The new resource is in fact identified by a circle around the computer and a slightly different icon. And we'll see that later in the demonstration part of this. So we now have additional security privileges. Anyone out there is using the Manage software screen now, creating inventory search rules, creating the products, licenses, and so on, you'll know that it's an all or nothing kind of screen. I give you all access or none. And what we've done from a security perspective is we now have specific privilege buttons to give very granular access to these screens. And we'll layer on that later, how that becomes more important, and we'll view these from the security screen. But just to review, there's now a specific button to import software, create the library, change usage tracking settings, create licenses, define the product inventory filters, create software deliveries, and software products. And that's a hint on later we can now create software deliveries within the software within the managed software screen through the new enhanced console. Which brings me to the software products within the software catalogs. There's been a few changes to this. For example, and just let me say this first, Symantec has in fact changed the definition of the product from something that's installed to any software that has been licensed, is deliverable, or has been detected as installed within the environment. So previously we were looking at something that was just installed, it just existed in the environment. In other words, we can now create a delivered software package and associate it to a product before it's installed within the environment. Backtracking here on the multiple components from managed software point, we have a new convenience improvement. So looking at the enormous list of new discovered software, we can now take a group of those from unmanaged and bring them over to newly discovered, take the newly discovered software as a group and move them to unmanaged software all at once, which makes it a lot easier to clean that information out. But keep in mind, this does not mean you can select additional components to be used within one product. You're still picking one product based on one software component and changing search rules to bring that data over. We also have a new checkbox to view all predefined software products. So some customers, for example, need to go in and edit the definition for Microsoft Office to exclude Visio. Sometimes it's licensed separately. So now we have the ability to do that even before we have that software information. To continue from that, we can also now create a blank software product without any filtering rules. So with this, if we go back and think about security, if we leverage this with the new changes, we can delegate the building of inventory search rules, licensing, metering, and delivery to other asset workers after we've created a blank product. One of the biggest things about the Service Pack 2 release has got to be the dynamic application metering. One of my favorite changes, something I'm excited about. You no longer have to manually find an executable for an application in order to meter it. So what we're doing now is once a client machine sends that software inventory information back to the system, it's captured by those software filter rules within the product, and then the executables are automatically monitored if you enable application metering. So essentially, if you go in, turn it on, the executables are automatically associated with that product. And as long as you understand that it takes about a day or so for that inventory to come up, for the association to be made, it saves a significant amount of time from going to the systems personally and adding in those executables. There's also an import software to deliver tab within the software product. I mentioned that previously. That'll be a little more clear when we do the full demonstration as well. Moving on, I'm going to address a few specific enhancements to the Asset Management Suite. Almost done with the slides here, so bear with me. First, an issue was encountered where unless a software license and purchase was generated within the new console view. It did not appear from the new enhanced console. That has been fixed. Multiple purchases can now be easily added to a single software license within the enhanced console, which allows a better emulation of the licensing model you're used to in 7.0, where we create our licenses, many if required, and associate them back to the license. Another of my top 5 improvements has got to be the unlicensed product button. So now, from an at-a-glance point of view, we no longer have a red slide bar saying that Adobe Reader is out of compliance. So we can ignore that, still track it in the way that we do license information. We're no longer flagging that as an issue. And lastly, I would like to mention that we are seeing significant improvements to general asset management experience. Going in, creating, updating an asset, making associations, the screens are coming up a lot faster. And when you're going into these screens, something I do want to mention that's not on the slides here, when we're going in to associate with a location, for example, if that location does not exist, in SP2 we now have a new location button. You can do the same thing with the company, department, and so on. And that wraps up my slides. We'll come back briefly. I'm going to switch gears here and go into the demonstration. Now keep in mind we're on a Dell laptop. I have about 3 gigs of RAM applied to my virtual environment with i7 processor, so certainly not your ideal environment, but even here I think you'll see some changes in performance that you like. Let me go ahead and, so first thing I'm going to start with, I'm going to go to Manage Computers and check out the Enhanced Console view. So immediately in the upper left hand corner you'll notice they've got a little iPhone icon up in the corner here. I know I've got some Windows fans out there who won't be happy about that. In the center here I have listed my computers, and Clue 002 is in fact my virtual server. You can see on the left here where I have my mouse, we have a little circular icon representing it's a virtual environment, which also carries over here. So that's that at a glance, is it virtual, is it not? And still we have our options to click in here, look at our specific identification information. That's not a change, but we can see that these tabs still come up as fast as we're used to. And here are the chevron buttons I was talking about. So we have them for our saved searches, we have them for our computer views. Let's go ahead and look at things that have an installed agent. On the far right side I have about 31 computers. Here's my list. Excuse me for a second. In the summary, I have my operating systems. We can see that my biggest one here is Windows 7 Enterprise. We've got a few professional. On the right here, we do have some spoofed data, so we're missing manufacturer data, but primarily Dell, some Lenovo's as well. So this is our computer summary. I can go ahead and look at the virtual machines. I've got about 11 here, kind of all over the place. The virtual machines, because they don't have a true manufacturer in some of these cases, are not coming through. They may also just not have inventory information. So that covers the chevron button, the computer summary, as well as the virtual icon. Real quickly, I'm going to go into security. We'll take a look at those privileges. So I'm not talking about changes specifically going into Show Security Role Manager into the minefield of checkboxes. What I'm talking about is base privilege buttons in the beginning of the screen. So I've got asset managers. We'll let that load. We'll take a look at those checkboxes. I won't be demonstrating putting anyone in these roles. So I've got create, configure software usage tracking, create software licenses, create a software product, and define software product inventory filters. So it's a very simple change. Take those roles, add the checkboxes as you see necessary, and you're good to go. The next thing I would like to take a look at, I'm going to go back to Manage Computers and move away from the screen. Let's take a look at the software catalog. So we do have our newly discovered software. We'll give this a second to load. As you can see, even on my virtual environment, I've got about 800 resources, not too bad. Let's go ahead and take all these flash items over here, select it in a group, move it to unmanaged. You can see it'll summarizes our computers here, showing all computers that have that installed in those 8 systems, and that's it. So it cuts down on the time that you have to clean out these quite considerably. If I'd like, I can do a search for Apple. And let's go ahead and get rid of the Apple application support as well. Now let's go ahead and pick something and make it managed here. I believe I saw Camtasia 7. We've got about 7 different entries. This would be a good example. We'll manage this software. So the inventory, identify inventory you're probably all used to. What we'll go ahead and do is get rid of English here. We'll change this version to be a little less specific, and I've now captured all 3 of the versions there. Call this version 7.x. Go ahead and choose a desktop application. It's a little demo on software management here for you as well. That's all we need there. Take a look at metering and tracking. Go ahead and turn that on. Add a program. We've got Camtasia Menu Maker. So it's captured all of these for us automatically. I'm just going to go ahead and associate them manually for now as an example. But by configuring this, that will be brought in automatically. Delivery, little changes here. We've got import. Go ahead and click that. I don't actually have some executables to bring in, but this should look very familiar. And it looks at the directory. You can reach out to a shared drive, pull in an executable, and bring the software in. So this should look familiar to anyone else. We've got a software release. We could say we could pull it from a UNC package and so on. And this will bring you through the full process of importing that software. And then we'll check out licenses. So is this a licensable software product or not? In this case it is. If it's not, we uncheck that and then we don't get that error. Go ahead and we'll add a purchase. Say we've got 10, cost about $500. I'm just making up numbers here. Hit add. There we are. If we want to, we can add another purchase as well. As long as we don't change the software license here, that will be added. Say this is about 100. And that will add it additionally to that license. We've got the 2 purchases here. We've got one just called Purchase, one called Camtasia. Go ahead and hit OK. So let's take a look at it. We've got our install product, Camtasia. And our potential savings is $600 here. We've got 12 total licenses. We got 2 that are running out there, and we can manage the licenses. They've changed the name there, so instead of just add, we can manage it. If we want to, we can uncheck license product. So we'll ignore that. In the screen here, we get a reset, and we say, okay, we have 2, but we're neutral. We don't list how many we've actually been licensed for. So we've got that nice at a glance, how many do I have, without anyone being worried that they're under-deployed or over-deployed. Review basic asset management, just to point out a few things. Another component, I forgot about this, asset search is back. Anyone who's familiar with NS6, we had a asset search web part that was pretty popular. I'd actually ended up writing a report for a lot of customers to bring that back. It's a little slow right now, but you should recognize it as soon as it comes up. It allows you to search by manufacturer, by barcode, I believe. Here we go. So I lied about manufacturer. We've got asset name, serial number, system number, barcode. We've got location. We've got owner. So this now is back. I think a few of my customers will be happy about that. Let's take a look at some computers here. So let's take a look at Clue 002, my local machine, just to demonstrate the improved speed of this coming up. You may not think so just yet, but if we've got a lot of asset customers out there with a few hundred or at least a few 50,000 resources, you'll know right off the bat that's a significant improvement considering the lightweight hardware that I've got right now. So I can go ahead and associate to a location. Sorry, actually this brought me straight to the location resource. You can see that's significantly faster than what we're used to. I'm going to hit cancel for now. Go back. We're going to go ahead and edit that. And we've got our list of resources. Another small change I'll show you. Let's dial down into the Grand Rapids office. I'm going to hit OK. And we actually can now see the full hierarchy of that displayed within the resource. If I hit edit again, you'll notice I can create a new location if it doesn't exist. If I need to change the associated user and they don't exist, I can create a new user. Give this a second and take a look at the user list. If I've got some hardcore asset users out there, it's a significant improvement in simple clicking back and forth. I'll hit OK and save the changes there. Maybe a little pause updating the database. Not too bad. I can live with that. Let's check out software licensing. Same thing. Take a look at our software licenses. Let's take a look at the Camtasia license I just created. Double click on that. And here we are in our Edit Configuration Item screen, just like that. We can go ahead and come down, assign this to a contract location. Let's go ahead and choose Atlanta, and I'll hit OK. And those are the biggest changes, I think, that I wanted to cover today. So again, the name of the game in this was performance. So there's not a lot of clear visual changes to review. There's a lot of background changes in terms of support, in terms of what we can use. I wish I could demo this on IE9. Unfortunately, I did not have a chance to upgrade my Internet Explorer version. You'll have to forgive me for that. Just a shameless plug for ITS. We got itsdelivers.com as our website. My email address, odamey@itsdelivers.com. Phone number 877-LTIRIS. And a personal shameless plug for my Asset Team Twitter account. Any of you are big into social networking. I am at, well, not me, my team, sorry, is at ITS_ITAM team. So again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Follow up with us if you have any additional questions.